I am root and branch a reformer, and I'm absolutely clear that we need reform right through the whole system, because it's perfectly rational, reasonable, and sensible for people when they're voting for who they want to be their MHK, that they're interested in specific issues. You know, it might be children and families, or tax levels, or whatever. But in reality, government can only deliver if it's functioning as an efficient organisation. And the more experience I got in government, both as a backbencher and a minister, it was clear that there needed to be radical change. The first thing I did when we got back in was to ask Tynwald to set up a committee to look at a single legal entity. Coman balked at that somewhat, but recognised that it was an issue of import, and therefore got Tynwald to convert it into a subcommittee of the Council of Ministers, and I was put on that. We then produced a report which in broad terms favoured the concept of a single legal entity over a period of time. Unfortunately, after it was accepted by Tynwald, the executive didn't do a great deal to respond to it, and that was disappointing. But in the meantime, what happened was that Jersey and Guernsey, the other Crown dependencies, are running similar problems, how to make their governments efficient. And they actually read our report as part of their deliberations in the same area of concerns. And 8 months after our report came out, Jersey migrated to a single legal entity. So it was a little bit of, well, the Isle of Man says the right thing, but Jersey does it. The problem is that independent departments of government, historically, because they are legal entities in their own right, have been granted, as it were, responsibility for big strategic issues, which so often are cross-departmental. And because they are essentially operational organisations and are not really experienced and competent to deal with cross-departmental strategic issues, too often we've fallen down. And if you historically analyse over the last 8, 9, 10 years and beyond where things have gone wrong, you can almost always, it's extraordinary, pin it down to the fact that a department was given a responsibility beyond their competence. It impacts upon us all, every citizen, every department, all aspects. And again, wisely, Tynwald went with Ralph Peake's amendment, which was effectively to take it away from an individual department and place it above that with an independent chair. So do I think I'm making progress? Yes, I do. And I think more and more members are getting this thing about separating operations from strategic thinking. We're making progress, but too slowly. So I think that's if you were going to cut my interview down to a few words, that would be it, I think. Another area that's of concern, which has grown for me recently, has been the relationship between executive government and the staff of government. And I think in recent years that's weakened. And my analysis there is that when we had a lot of money, it was always possible for government to buy itself out of trouble. And historically, the unions were stronger than they are now. But once we got to post-Lehman's and we had this retrenchment and really significant problem with our budgetary control, unfortunately, and sort of inevitably with the existing system, too many of the departmental bosses effectively have been responding to those constraints by cutting frontline services in order to protect their own jobs, and that's been for some people a very difficult process, and for some very difficult indeed, verging on the brutal and damaging. Well, as Douglas as a whole, of course, that it was that which encouraged me to take that motion to the floor of the House on financing and capital structures. And I think we're going to see in coming month and year movements in that regard, which I, along with the brownfield sites work, and I'm hopeful that we're going to see progress there. What I'd like to see is a growing awareness of the importance of unified government service, that we continue to accept that separate the difference. And I recognise that the difference between operational delivery and strategic thinking, and that I don't think we'll necessarily see it in this House. But I hope and pray that after I've gone and retired, that enough has been done for people to say, actually, we're beginning to work like a look-like single legal entity. It's now that concept of not being one, beginning to recognise, is getting in the way of better government. So let's take that extra step. When it happens, I don't know.